Hello everyone, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Here, I want to talk about something I've noticed that's quietly becoming part of our daily lives without even realizing it. Have you ever opened a social media app and suddenly come across content like 5 signs you might have an anxiety disorder? Or do you have often feel this way? It could be avoidant attachment. And without even realizing it, we begin to think, oh, maybe that's me, or these signs are exactly what I'm feeling. Eventually, we dive deeper into the content and start assuming we have a mental disorder based on what the content presents. With the rise of mental health content, those topics are no longer taboo. But the question is, do we truly understand them, or are we just following the trend to seem cool? Many young people, especially Gen Z, tend to self-diagnose for several reasons. Fear of being judged, the stigma that saying psychologist means being crazy, or simply because therapy feels too expensive. In real life, we are often seen as being overly dramatic when talking about mental health. But when we open social media, we find a lot of content that feels like it validates the feelings we are experiencing. That's why social media often feels like a safe space that represents things we didn't know before. According to the journal Connectedness, 60% of young people obtain information about mental health through social media, and 39% assume they have a mental disorder after viewing that content. However, in the clinical practice, mental disorder cannot be diagnosed based on just one or two symptoms, but an accurate diagnosis can only be made through an in-depth interview with a qualified professional. As a young person who is also active on social media, I completely understand how easy it is to fall into this pattern. I have also related to mental health content to the point where I started questioning myself. Am I avoidant attachment? However, what I felt turned out to be far more complicated than what I saw in the internet. According to the Dr. Tirta, a health educator who is active on social media, self-diagnosis can be dangerous because when we diagnose ourselves, we may at the first feel fine and simply think that the diagnosis fits our symptoms, but over time we may unconsciously begin to believe that we have a mental disorder that may not actually be true. This can affect our self-perception, such as feeling less confident because we believe our condition is not okay. Worse, inaccurate self-diagnosis can also turn into an identity, and people may start using it as a justification or excuse for negative actions. For example, someone may keep thinking, it's okay if I'm manipulative because I have past trauma, even though they haven't received a diagnosis from a professional. This kind of justification is harmful because it leads people to ignore efforts to become the best version of themselves. After all, mental disorders are not an excuse to harm others or ourselves. Now, let me be clear. Self-diagnosis can be very helpful in self-awareness, but it should never be the final word. All information on social media can be useful for expanding our knowledge, but it should not be used as a definitive tool for determining mental health diagnosis. When you feel something is bothering you, it is advisable to consult a professional in the field. These days, many psychological services are accessible through BPJS, and consultations can even be done online as well. Seeking help is not something to be ashamed of or considered excessive. It is an act of self-care. Many of us have felt scared, confused, or lost. So let me tell you something. Please know this. You are not alone. You deserve to be understood, heard, and helped by people who are truly equipped to help.